Have you ever met someone who was clearly brilliant, but also a little strange? Someone who talks to themselves, who stays up until 3 a.m. lost in thought, who finds small talk physically painful, who gets obsessed with one topic for weeks, and then suddenly switches to something completely different. Here is what most people do not know. Those are not flaws. Those are features. People with very high IQ do not think like everyone else, and because of that, they do not behave like everyone else either. Their brains are wired differently, they process the world differently, and over time, that different processing produces a very specific set of habits and behaviors that look strange from the outside, but make complete sense from the inside. Today, we are breaking down 7 weird habits of people with very high IQ, backed by real psychology and behavioral research. And by the end of this video, you might realize that someone you know is a lot more intelligent than you ever gave them credit for. Or you might realize something surprising about yourself. Welcome to Human Decoded. Let's get into it. Habit 1, they talk to themselves. If you regularly catch a highly intelligent person muttering under their breath, having full conversations with themselves, or thinking out loud, do not worry about them. That is actually a sign of a very active and sophisticated mind. Psychologists call this private speech, and research consistently shows that people who engage in private speech, talking themselves through problems, narrating their thinking process out loud, demonstrate significantly higher levels of cognitive performance. Here is why. When a high IQ person talks to themselves, they are not being strange. They are externalizing their internal processing. They are using language as a tool to organize complex thoughts, work through difficult problems, and slow down their thinking enough to examine it clearly. The brain of a high IQ person is often running so fast and processing so many things simultaneously that talking out loud becomes a necessary release valve. It's how they keep up with their own mind. So the next time you catch someone talking to themselves, do not assume they are struggling. Assume they are thinking at a level that required them to bring it outside their head. Habit 2, they struggle with small talk. Ask a highly intelligent person about quantum physics, human psychology, geopolitics, or the meaning of existence, and they will talk for hours, passionately, effortlessly, with extraordinary depth. Ask them how their weekend was, and watch them visibly suffer. This is one of the most universally recognized habits of high IQ individuals, and psychology tells us exactly why it happens. Highly intelligent people are wired for what researchers call deep processing. Their brains naturally seek complexity, depth, and meaning in every interaction. Small talk, by definition, offers none of these things. To a high IQ brain, small talk feels like being handed a puzzle with 2 pieces. It's not just boring, it's cognitively frustrating. The brain wants more. It wants substance. It wants to go somewhere real. This is why high IQ individuals often seem awkward or disinterested in social settings, not because they dislike people, but because the surface-level conversation most social settings demand feels like an intellectual waste of time to their constantly seeking minds. They don't hate people, they just desperately need the conversation to go deeper. Habit 3, they are chronically messy. This one surprises people. We tend to imagine highly intelligent people as organized, precise, and methodical, and some are, but a significant body of psychological research tells a different story for many high IQ individuals. A study from the University of Minnesota found that people who work in disorganized, messy environments consistently demonstrated higher levels of creative thinking and unconventional problem solving than those in tidy, organized spaces. Here's the psychology behind it. A highly intelligent person's mind is constantly making connections between ideas, concepts, memories, and possibilities. Their physical environment often reflects this mental state. Piles of books with 15 bookmarks, notes scattered across every surface, projects in various stages of completion everywhere. To an outside observer, it looks like chaos. To the high IQ person, it's a physical map of their thinking. They know exactly where everything is, because their environment organically mirrors the inside of their mind. The mess is not a sign of laziness or disorganization. It's a sign of a mind that is perpetually in the middle of too many fascinating things at once. Habit 4, they stay up late. If you know someone with a very high IQ, there is a very strong chance they are a night owl. This is not coincidence or bad habit. This is biology and psychology working together. Research published in the journal Psychology and Individual Differences found a significant correlation between high intelligence and preference for staying up late. The study found that more intelligent individuals were significantly more likely to identify as night owls than their average IQ counterparts. Here is why. The brain of a high IQ person is most active and most creative when external stimulation drops, when the house is quiet, the notifications have stopped, and the world has gone to sleep. Without the constant interruptions and social demands of the day, the high IQ mind finally has the space it needs to think freely, make unexpected connections, and pursue the deep, focused thinking it craves. The late night hours are not wasted time for a high IQ person. They are often the most productive, most creative,
creative and most meaningful hours of their entire day. Habit 5. They get obsessed with specific topics. One week it is ancient Roman history, the next it is quantum mechanics, the next it is learning an entirely new language, the next is mastering chess, and then as suddenly as the obsession arrived, it disappears and something else takes its place. This pattern of intense, hyper-focused obsession followed by sudden disengagement is one of the most characteristic habits of high IQ individuals, and it's driven by the way their brain processes novelty and reward. Psychologists call it neophilia, an exceptionally strong attraction to new and complex stimuli. The high IQ brain gets an unusually powerful dopamine reward from discovering, learning, and mastering new things. The early stages of a new topic, when everything is new and every discovery is exciting, produces an almost euphoric state of engagement. But once mastery begins to approach, once the deep questions have been explored and the major mysteries resolved, the dopamine reward drops sharply. The brain signals that this territory is now known, and it begins scanning urgently for the next unknown frontier. This is why high IQ people can seem unfocused or inconsistent to people around them. They are not. They are simply following the reward map of a brain that is built to explore. Habit 6. They constantly question everything. Why does this work? Who decided this was the right way? What would happen if we did it completely differently? Has anyone actually tested this assumption? What is the evidence? If you know someone who asks these questions constantly about everything, about systems, rules, traditions, processes, beliefs, and assumptions that everyone else simply accepts without question, you are almost certainly dealing with a high IQ individual. Highly intelligent people have what psychologists call a low tolerance for cognitive dissonance. They cannot comfortably hold beliefs that have not been examined. They cannot comfortably follow rules they do not understand. They cannot accept that something is true simply because everyone else believes it is. This habit makes them extraordinarily effective at identifying flaws in thinking, improving systems, and solving problems that no one else has been able to crack, because they are the only ones willing to question the assumption that the problem is being approached correctly in the first place. It also makes them genuinely difficult to manage, to convince, and to control, because they will not simply take your word for it. They need to understand it themselves. Habit 7. They are highly self-critical. Of all the habits on this list, this is perhaps the most painful one and the most misunderstood. People with very high IQ are almost universally their own harshest critics. They set extraordinarily high standards for themselves. They are acutely aware of every mistake they make, every gap in their knowledge, every way their performance fell short of what they believe it could have been. Psychology explains this through a concept called metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. High IQ individuals have an exceptionally well-developed metacognitive ability. They can observe their own thinking processes, identify their own errors, and assess their own performance with remarkable precision. The problem is that this same ability that makes them so effective at learning and improving also makes it impossible for them to overlook their own shortcomings. Where a person of average intelligence might not notice a flaw in their thinking, the high IQ individual sees it immediately, clearly, in detail. This is why many highly intelligent people struggle with anxiety, perfectionism, and a persistent sense that they are never quite good enough, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. The most intelligent people in any room are often the ones who are most painfully aware of everything they do not yet know. So there you have it, the 7 weird habits of people with very high IQ. Habit 1, they talk to themselves. Habit 2, they struggle with small talk. Habit 3, they are chronically messy. Habit 4, they stay up late. Habit 5, they get obsessed with specific topics. Habit 6, they constantly question everything. Habit 7, they are highly self-critical. Here is the most important thing I want you to take away from this video. Intelligence does not always look the way we expect it to look. It does not always come in a neat, organized, socially comfortable package. Sometimes it looks like the person talking to themselves in the corner, the one who cannot make eye contact during small talk, the one with the chaotic desk and the 2 a.m. bedtime, and the new obsession every other week. Do not mistake different for broken. Some of the most brilliant minds in the world just needed someone to understand them a little better. How many of these 7 habits did you recognize in yourself or someone you know? Drop your number in the comments. I want to know. Subscribe to Human Decoded. Every week we decode a new side of human nature. I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious, stay open.